At 06:03 local time, 12 Ukrainian unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, launched simultaneously from a staging area in Sumy Oblast. Their target was Arsenal number 100, located near Nizhny Novgorod, approximately 578 miles northeast of the launch point. This marked the deepest known Ukrainian strike yet attempted against a Russian ammunition depot. Success, however, hinged on the initial diversion working perfectly. Before proceeding to the main account, comment number 2 if you support Ukraine, number 3 if you support Russia, and number 4 if you support peace.
At 06:21, a Russian radar operator in Bryansk Oblast picked up the first faint contacts, weak returns flickering at the edge of coverage that gradually sharpened as the tracks moved eastward. He counted 12 targets, possibly 13. Each displayed a radar cross-section, RCS, consistent with a cruise missile, the kind of signature that demands immediate attention at 6 a.m. He quickly plotted the tracks and forwarded the data up the chain. 3 minutes later, the contacts appeared on the display of a Buk M2 missile unit commander located 43 miles to the north. He prepared to expend between $4.8 million and $8 million worth of missiles against objects constructed largely of plastic and foam, each valued at roughly $33,000. The commander studied the tracks on screen. 12 confirmed flight paths heading northeast at 99 miles per hour. Altitude remained steady between 1970 and 2950 feet. The flight profiles hugged terrain with disciplined spacing. RCS returns were unusually strong, radar data estimating each object at 880 to 1,100 pounds. Current range stood at 36 miles. At friend speed, the targets would enter the system's 31-mile engagement envelope in about 4 minutes. That was precisely when the trap closed. His Buk launcher carried only 4 ready missiles on the rails. The math was brutally simple. 4 missiles versus 12 targets, with reload times of 6 to 8 minutes. At current velocity, the swarm would overfly his position in roughly 4 minutes. The commander had 1 magazine to stop an incoming force outnumbering his ready rounds 3 to 1. Reload would then consume another 6 to 8 minutes.
The targets did not follow a straight northeast vector. They could be cruise missiles, decoys, or some new Ukrainian weapon system he had never encountered. But they were penetrating deep into Russian territory, and no officer advances by letting suspected cruise missiles pass while debating possibilities. He made the call any competent commander would make. At 06:27, the first launch order was given. 2 missiles left the rails, accelerating to triple the speed of sound as they raced toward intercept points. The fire control radar locked the lead targets, continuously updating guidance parameters as the missiles closed at nearly 0.6 miles per second. 38 seconds to intercept. 30, 20. The first warhead detonated at 06:28. A flash lit the Bryansk sky as 12,000 steel fragments tore through a plastic decoy weighing 19.6 pounds. The radar return vanished. The Buk commander logged a confirmed kill. He had no idea he had just spent enough money to buy a luxury apartment to destroy an object cheaper than a bicycle. The second launch order came at 06:31.
2 more missiles, 2 more confirmed intercepts, 2 more tracks disappearing from the screen. The Buk unit was now Winchester. 4 ready rounds expended in 4 minutes. The reload vehicle moved into position. Hydraulic systems whined as missile canisters were hoisted onto the launcher. At least 6 minutes would pass before he could fire again. Meanwhile, the remaining 8 targets would cross his position within the next 5 minutes. The commander reported 100% hit rate to higher headquarters, pride evident in his voice. What he did not and could not report was that he had fallen for the bait. The 8 surviving targets overflew his sight at 06:36. 60 miles east near Smolensk, a Tor M2 unit acquired the swarm at 06:37. The Tor is Russia's short-range point defense system, with 8 ready missiles designed to engage cruise missiles out to 7.5 miles. Against genuine cruise missiles, it is lethal. Against decoys deliberately flying just beyond engagement range, it was little more than a chained watchdog. The commander analyzed the tracks. Azimuth at 243, range 19 miles. The targets were not heading directly toward him. They tracked north, offset to pass 11 miles outside his engagement envelope. From his current position, he could not reach them. He considered repositioning northwest to block the path, but the wheeled Tor chassis tops out at 25 miles per hour on these roads. By the time he arrived, the targets would be long gone. He could only watch passively and report.
At 0638, an S-300 battery 75 miles east of Smolensk began tracking. The S-300 is built for high-altitude threats, fighters at 59,000 feet, or inbound ballistic missiles. Its 48 N-6 missiles reach 93 miles, easily within range from this position. Yet its radar is optimized for targets against ground clutter, not low-flying cruise missiles at 2,600 feet. Fire control solutions flickered. Lock. Lost. Lock. Weak signal. Lock. He could fire on partial solutions and hope the missile seeker acquired during terminal flight. Probability of kill against a low-altitude target with marginal lock hovered around 40%. At 1.2 million to 2 million per round, it was an expensive gamble with poor odds.
The commander reported the situation and requested guidance. At 0639, the Bryant's book completed reloading. 4 fresh 9M317 missiles now on rails. He checked coordinates. Targets now at azimuth 067, range 51 miles, and pulling away. A tail chase at this distance would push the missiles to kinematic limits. They would burn all fuel just to close, leaving scant margin for final maneuvers. Hit probability against straight-flying targets was acceptable, but a sharp last-second jink would crater the odds. He reported ready status and awaited orders. The geometry was terrible, and the officer knew it. Yet the targets still tracked northeast, and a higher commander would have to decide.
The integrated air picture at the Regional Coordination Center showed the full tactical tableau. A reloaded book with targets already passed, a Tor unable to reach, an S-300 with flickering locks. 8 cruise missile-sized tracks were penetrating deep into Russia at 99 miles per hour, threading radar coverage gaps. 3 fire units held 12 ready missiles, yet no clean engagement solution existed. The assistant reached a Regional Air Defense Watch officer at 0640. He faced 2 options. Option 1, order fire with poor solutions. The Bryant's book could attempt tail chase. The S-300 could launch on partial locks. Total missiles required, 8 to 16. Cost, $6 million to $12 million. Probability of stopping all 8 targets, very low.
Scramble fighters. 2 Su-35 from Kotilovo Air Base could intercept the swarm in roughly 20 minutes. Each carried 8 R-77 missiles, more than enough for the remaining targets. The major drawback? Once fighters entered the battle space, every surface-to-air unit in the sector would receive an automatic weapons hold order to prevent friendly fire. Ground-based air defense would stand down until the fighters exited the area. The watch officer checked the clock. 0641. Every minute of delay let the enemy advance another 1.7 miles into the homeland. He made the call. At 0641, an emergency scramble order went to Kotilovo Air Base.
The 2 Su-35 fighters were airborne 3 minutes later, engines driving them northeast at 932 miles per hour. En route to altitude, pilots received target data. 8 cruise missile-sized contacts, azimuth 047, range 174 miles, altitude 2,600 feet, speed 99 miles per hour, time to target approximately 14 minutes. The automatic ceasefire directive propagated across the air defense network at 0649. Hold fire in Bryansk, Smolensk, and Kaluga sectors, friendly aircraft operating in the battlespace. Tracking radars went silent. The freshly reloaded Buk dropped to standby. The Smolensk area Tor powered down.
The Eastern S-300 battery tracked passively but kept fire control radar off. The sky now belonged to the fighters. By 0658, the Su-35 pair acquired radar contacts on the remaining targets. They descended to engagement altitude and began targeting with the Irbis-E phased array radar. The first R-77 left the rail at 0701. The missile tracked a target maintaining constant heading and speed. No evasive action, no countermeasures, no reaction. Warhead detonation occurred at 0702. The pilots methodically cleared the swarm. One return after another vanished from the scopes. At 0713, the flight lead reported the battle space clear of hostile contacts. 8 targets destroyed. Threat neutralized.
The Su-35 pair returned to Kotilovo for rearming. Across western Russia, surface-to-air units resumed normal operations, radars sweeping empty skies. The regional watch officer logged the engagement as a successful intercept of a Ukrainian cruise missile raid. He would never learn what had actually been destroyed. The objects that fell over Bryansk and Smolensk that morning were not cruise missiles. They were Ukrainian Sukhoi-20 decoys, 8.9-pound, 4-kilogram plastic and foam devices carrying an internal Lüneburg lens. A Lüneburg lens consists of concentric dielectric layers with precisely graduated densities that bend radar waves to create a focused reflection.
When radar energy strikes a conventional object, most energy scatters randomly, with only a fraction returning to the receiver. A Lüneburg lens captures incoming waves and reflects nearly all energy straight back toward the source, like a mirror. The result is dramatic. An 8.9-pound UAV suddenly presented an RCS 15 times larger than its physical size to a Buk fire control radar. Each Sukhoi-20 mimicked an 880-pound cruise missile. The effect held true against the Su-35's Irbis-E radar as well. Without visual confirmation, operators had no way to differentiate. By the time fighters closed to eyeball range, the engagement was already over. The decoys had performed their role flawlessly.
40 miles south of the battle space, flying at 656 feet, 9 Lu-T UAVs had spent the previous 24 minutes threading through airspace where every surface-to-air system was offline, and every fighter was operating 2,000 feet above them. They still had 460 miles to go. At the far end lay a target Russia never imagined Ukraine could locate, much less reach. The 9 Lu-T pressed northeast at just 66 feet, terrain following systems keeping them skimming treetops. The earlier gap had bought them an extra 31 miles, but more than 500 miles of hostile airspace remained ahead, and the ceasefire window did not extend to forward fire units.
At 0847, the lead Lu-T encountered trouble. While threading a radar coverage gap east of Tula, its SkyNode navigation system glitched. Terrain below no longer matched stored satellite imagery. What should have been open farmland was now a partially frozen reservoir. Water levels had risen 10 feet since the imagery was captured, altering shoreline geometry used for positioning. The UAV's flight computer attempted to cross-reference surrounding features for landmarks. It identified a road junction 2 miles north that matched archive data and corrected course. The 47-second delay, however, pushed the UAV 2,600 feet off planned track, straight into detection range of a Tor unit guarding a rail junction outside Tula. The Tor crew needed only 4 seconds of the 8-second window from detection to launch. At 0903, the second Lu-T faced a different issue. Its Chinese-made engine had run at 85% power for 3 continuous hours. Piston temperatures exceeded design limits. Fuel burn rose 12% under sustained high load. The equation was grim. The UAV would flame out 25 miles short of target. The flight computer had no solution. The Luti held course and speed until 0947, when the engine seized over Nizhny Novgorod Oblast. It glided for 90 seconds before crashing into an open field. No detonation occurred. The warhead fuse required valid target lock to arm. At 10:31, the third Luti strayed too close to a Panzer escorting a military convoy. Its commander faced the same choice the book officer had 4 hours earlier: an unidentified low-altitude target penetrating deep into Russia. No ceasefire order had reached him. No friendly aircraft were present. No reason to hold fire. 2 missiles launched at 10:32. The first struck at 10:33.
6 Luti remained. Ukrainian planners had anticipated 40% attrition. Current losses stood at 33%, with 323 miles still to target. The numbers remained marginally favorable, though razor-thin. The surviving UAVs pressed on, rerouting around newly revealed positions and slipping through coverage gaps pre-mapped over weeks by Skynode specialists. This was the key differentiator of the Luti over prior Ukrainian long-range UAVs. Earlier deep strikes relied on GPS navigation, signals that Russian electronic warfare systems could degrade or spoof. A spoofed GPS could convince a UAV it was 31 miles off course, sending it into empty forest, or worse, back over friendly lines.
Russian electronic warfare units have become highly proficient at this tactic. Skynode addresses the challenge by completely bypassing satellites. The system functions much like feeling your way through a dark house to reach the bathroom. It compares real-time camera imagery against pre-loaded high-resolution terrain maps loaded before launch. There are no signals to jam and no data links to intercept, just an onboard computer matching visual patterns at speeds of 100 miles per hour. The correlation process is not always flawless. Seasonal changes can distort the matching: snow cover, rising water levels, or new construction projects.
The system performs best in daylight or bright moonlight, hence the dawn launch. But it was sufficient. The 6 remaining Luti entered Kostroma Oblast at 14:23. Still at 66 feet, still radio silent, Arsenal number 100 lay only 7.5 miles ahead. The sprawling 2-square-mile facility sat amid birch forest northeast of Nizhny Novgorod, featuring underground bunkers, storage sheds, parking areas, and rail spurs. The lead UAV's camera captured first imagery of the target at 14:26. Those frames were later sent back to Ukrainian intelligence via burst transmission.
Imagery revealed an active facility, trucks moving between bunkers, forklifts handling pallets, and on an eastern rail spur, 4 flat cars carrying crated loads inconsistent with any Russian munition type. The crates were too large for standard artillery shells and shaped unlike multiple launch rocket system rounds. Markings were not Cyrillic. Whatever Russia was storing there had not originated in a Russian factory. The Panzer unit guarding the arsenal acquired the first target at 14:27. The operator studied the display. Initially, one low, fast track at azimuth 237, range 11 miles. Then a second appeared at 194, followed by a third at 261. The UAVs did not approach in formation. They converged on the depot from 3 separate vectors. He had one system, 2 30mm autocannons, and 3 inbound threats. The Panzer tracking radar can handle multiple targets simultaneously. Its twin 30mm guns deliver combined rates of 5,000 rounds per minute out to 2.5 miles.
Against a single UAV, the fire control solution is straightforward. Against 3 UAVs from 3 directions, calculations become complex very quickly. The guns can face only one sector at a time. Slewing between targets takes 2 seconds. Stabilizing a firing solution adds 1.5 seconds. A destructive burst requires 3 seconds of continuous fire. Total engagement cycle per target, 6.5 seconds. At 99 miles per hour, a UAV covers 950 feet in 6.5 seconds. The operator designated the nearest threat at azimuth 237, now 6.8 miles out, and initiated the sequence. Guns slewed, radar locked. At 2.5 miles, the autocannons opened fire. The lead Luti disintegrated into composite fragments. At 1428, he immediately slewed to the second target at 194, now inside 3.7 miles. Guns traversed, radar searched, locked, fired. The second Luti was destroyed at 1429.
But the third UAV had closed to 1.9 miles. As the operator swung the guns, 3 more targets appeared on screen. The remaining Luti approached from the north in loose formation at 5 miles. The northern group had timed its arrival with precision. While the Panzer dealt with the initial 3 southern and western threats, the northern UAVs had arced wide around the eastern perimeter, using a wooded hillside to mask their approach. The Panzer radar remained focused on active engagements: track, lock, fire. By the time the operator cleared the third target and scanned north, the second wave was inside 5 miles and closing fast. He had 6 seconds to engage the nearest contact. The northern group would cover 1.9 miles in that window. The autocannons acquired the third Luti at 1.3 miles. Rounds swept its flight path, fragments spraying. The UAV wobbled but flew on. Its nose warhead had fused. At 1430, the first surviving Luti struck a southern ammunition bunker. The 165-pound shaped charge warhead detonated on impact, punching through the concrete roof. For a fraction of a second, nothing happened. Then stacked shells from floor to ceiling began sympathetic detonation. The second impact occurred 4 seconds later in the northern sector, a warehouse packed with crated missiles. The third hit a parking area where trucks had offloaded munitions 20 minutes earlier. The fourth Luti, damaged by Panzer fire but still airborne, slammed into the eastern rail spur where the strangely marked crates sat. This explosion differed markedly, brighter, hotter. Secondary detonations rippled across the facility. Munitions chain-reacted, rocket fuel ignited, warheads detonated inside crates. The blast echoed to Nizhny Novgorod 3 miles away like continuous thunder. Post-strike analysis explained the intensity. The unusual crates belonged to North Korea. They contained KN-23 ballistic missiles, Pyongyang's analog to the Iskander. This was a weapon Russia could not produce domestically, shipped 3,730 miles across Asia to a depot they believed Ukraine could never reach. They were wrong. And now the question we pose to you: how many Russian troops has Russia lost in the first 60 days of 2026? Answer A, over 50,000. Answer B, under 50,000. Please comment your choice below, and the answer will appear in tomorrow's video. Thanks for watching. See you next time.